Sorry for the robotic tones. Cool. So well, yeah, and there's still gonna be some people coming in later. I know a couple of people coming in later, but this call is really, I've been really looking forward to doing a call like this for a long time, kind of, but I didn't really know that I was looking forward to it for a long time. But it's something that's super dear to my heart because I feel like I want to explore it and I haven't explored it. So this call is going to be focused on really taking our perceptions of what the Vedrus culture is, and then the steps that we're going to take to kind of go in that direction, but really more about what that is. And I know some people maybe haven't read fully to kind of know about that. I don't know, Satdaya, did you? I don't want to spoil any amazing things that happen, but do you know about the Vedrus culture? No, sorry. Did you? I was asking you if you. I didn't want to spoil anything.
Yeah.
Or else
Okay. Yeah. Um, I maybe is it if I read the books, I would know what you're referring to.
probably. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
in. I forgot what book it is. But yeah,
So yeah, I probably do, but maybe it's tucked back.
it's okay. Okay, as long as okay. Well, and it's a good. It's not like a storyline or anything like that. It's more just like the culture. Um, Yeah. So, first, as suggested by Elizabeth Urkel here, I like to think of her as like a community facilitator, engagement type of thing. Um, she made a good suggestion a couple of weeks ago that to let people who are new to the call, this is their first time, to give them a space and a moment to share anything about what brought them here, about what's going on, and really, it's a space for anybody to share. I'm not gonna go like chronologically on my screen or anything. However, I want to open the floor up to anybody who has anything they'd like to share about their day, about what's going on in the world for you right now in your world. Anything. The floor is open. Everybody's feeling shy tonight. Well, we don't have that many. We have a couple. We really only have a couple to.
I'll share.
Oh, coming in.
Of course, I'm so used to this.
Oh, love it, love it.
Okay, so I'm trying to cut the largest squash I've ever seen in my life.
That's what that was.
Yes. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Yeah, it's huge. I don't know if I can do it. But
Do you have a machete in your knife selection inside there?
no, I don't. I just have like this tiny little one.
I don't know if that's gonna work there, Elizabeth.
It might take me like the whole call.
Yeah,
but,
you'll slowly
I'm working on it.
you'll slowly go.
Also, I had the most amazing day. Like everything just worked out beautifully from like moment to moment to moment. It's just like, I don't even want to call it one of those days because I was very purposeful about making it happen. But just like where my thoughts were, where my mind was, just like making sure that I'm always constantly realigning. And everything was like so beautiful and so perfect from the moment. Just like, and I can't even describe how like even the tiniest little things were perfect. From like, so I went to a chiropractor appointment and then I had a massage and then I had of course you'd say like, oh, those are great days, right? But they can actually not be all that great. I mean, depending on your mood and just like how you're aligning, I suppose. But I ended up just having amazing conversations with a new massage therapist, and then like my chiropractor is magic. I didn't even know how how it happened, but then just like so, and then everything after that. I mean, I feel like I want to give details, but it doesn't really matter that much, just because like everything lined up. But that stuff happens when I fill my head and I fill my mind with just like constantly realigning with the divine plan. And just like, this is like, I'm like, I have all these affirmations and things that I say, but it's just, I'm like glowing and I'm like shining, and I can just feel how it's working. And I just want to like let people know that it works.
Wow.
Like it works. Like
That's so crazy. I thought the same thing when I saw you. I was like, she just looks really happy today. Like she looks really like just upbeat. Like, that's so cool. Wow.
yeah, and I mean, I think like in the like, I'm listening to like a book, whatever, that kind of goes into details about like really how to change your mindset, and like how to like from the tiniest thoughts that we have, like the smallest thoughts that we have, how to actually like change those if they're based in fear. Even things that like are so like you don't even notice that they're fear based anymore, but they actually like really have a huge impact because they're tiny little ones that eventually like build up. And so what I'm recognizing is that what Anastasia is talking about in her books is just to be happy. But then it's like, how do you actually do that on a practical daily, like moment to moment basis? And when you can do that, like it really does, like, yeah, your days just go awesome. Like your days just shine. So like this information that she's giving us is like super broad, and like, how do you pin it down to like the moment by moment and choosing to be happy in every moment? And yeah, it's just like keep moving, keep going with it because it really works.
Yeah. Epic share. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Wyatt.
Yeah. MJ, it looks like you have something to add to that.
Actually, if I have, it might serve as an intro to what we're getting into. I was listening to some other video, how we, all of us, listen to a whole bunch of conferences from different people, I'm sure, and I don't know if it's up there. I learned today. Not today, 2 days ago, just as I was learning about this conference tonight, the subject that you were going to introduce, the Vedrus culture, and I learned that my last name actually is a Vedic word for interdimensional.
Lucas?
Lokas.
Locus?
Lokas is a Vedic word to mean interdimensional.
Oh.
And I went, what did he say? Okay, play this back. What did he say? So once in a while, the life will send you, or you will have created before you incarnated in this body, little tidbits of moments of recognition that actually mean something to you. And this one is that today.
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful share. Jeez. Yeah, it is so true. Like I've received about 2 of those this week. And I won't go into details, but it just was so like I was having a moment of it's like serves as an affirmation, right? We really feel like we like to say we don't need these constant reminders, but today in our world we are all looking for like, hey, like that sign, like I'm on the right path, right? Um and it just like hit me out of thin air. Like this woman sent me this message as this, like it was the answer to the thought that I was thinking. It was the craziest thing. And I just was like, oh my gosh, it's really, it went back to what Elizabeth was saying, like just be happy, like so much. And then today I just got off the phone with an old he's a cousin of mine, but he's very old, and he was just saying, cousin, it's all just so freaking simple. It's all just so freaking simple. And I was like, that's it. Be happy. Like, what does God ask his children? All I ask is that you be happy, and it's so mind blowing. Thank you so much for that share. It really is reflecting a lot of what's happening, I'm sure, in a lot of people's lives, especially mine right now. Yeah. Okay. Well, oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Hi everyone. Really nice to be here. Thank you so much, Wyatt, for hosting this call. I'm sorry, I literally woke up at 2 a.m. and I couldn't get back to bed, so I'm a little groggy, but I'm super happy to be here. And Wyatt, I wanted to share, this is a really beautiful theme for your call today. I wanted to share a moment. So when I read the books and was first introduced to the word Vedruss, the moment that the word first came out in the book, like I forget which book it was. I don't know if all of you remember that moment, but for me, it was incredibly powerful. It was literally like Anastasia like moved out of the page and was like speaking right to my soul. And I spoke to a few readers, and a lot of people had that same impression where her spirit was literally waking up a memory within us. Like that's one of the very best ways I can say it. And reading, obviously reading the excerpts is very powerful, but the moment she introduced that word in the book, it really propelled me in an incredible new direction. And it seems to me, we know that the book is filled with like encoded, imagery and like quite profound energy. So I think it's really appropriate, Wyatt, that you bring this theme up, because it is powerful. Does anybody here relate to what I'm saying? Like reading? Yeah. So
and on my end too, what
Yeah.
comes to mind is something that Wyatt had shared, because certain words do carry frequency, and these frequencies are, and some of them, connected to a very wholesome energy and an expansive energy. And it reminds me of what Wyatt shared about the word, was it Abu or Abba?
but what was
Yeah,
that?
Abba. Yeah.
Rather than God, you're
Yeah.
saying God, and then you came across this word which is intended to mean similarly, but it had a completely different visceral response for you.
Stefan, that is
Yeah.
so crazy you're bringing this up, brother. Literally, I read the prayer today in book 4 and just paused and looked over those words, Abba, the Father, like I am your Abba, your Father, like, and I just like looked at them for a minute. Like I haven't picked up book 4 in a month, and then you bring that up today. I mean, it is, whenever I say that word, it's a much more total reaction in my whole body than when I say the word God. It's, it's much more like, I don't know. Yeah.
Wow.
It's getting us to be a lot more discerning with the vocabulary that we're using, and I just wrapped up a poem today actually about just that, which I'll be sharing, but just showing some of these, and I'm sure some of you have heard this in different ways, but like, a day, days and days, week and week.
Like weak. I'm weak.
I'm weakened
Yes,
by the
week.
weekend. I'm in a daze from the days. I'm weak from the
Weekend.
week. I'm weakened by the weekend.
Like,
my heart's
like
beating from the
hypnosis.
beating.
My heart's beating. Why is your heart beating?
It hurts from the hurts.
Hurts from the hurts. 528 hertz. It's like we're hexing each other with these words and we don't even know it.
Unintentionally. Why am I mourning the morning? Why am I saying good morning?
Good morning.
It's good day.
Good rising. Good
Grand
rising.
rising.
Grand
Why
rising.
not? So just discernment with our vocabulary is something we need to
Look at these two that are just already like jumping on the train of like rewriting the script of culture. They're like, we're skipping to the end of the call. We're rewriting the script now. Already.
Oh, can I jump on that for a second?
Yeah, we need to take a step.
Okay, I've been doing a little bit of research on this, right? Well, okay, so I wanted to add one to your like line that you had. But hello, so it's like your greeting is like hell and then it's low. But if you say like hi, it's like high like the sky, so we really are vexing each other with with our language. That's so true. But then like, okay, so I was saying a couple weeks ago that the word God is actually this, and I was hearing about it in an old like an old fairy tale, that the two different like the good and the evil kind of thing, the good God, whatever, was called Abba, and the bad God, or the evil one, the darkness, was actually called God. Like that's how it is. And I actually, so this is really kind of like creepy in a way, but like when I looked up the word, okay, so God in Russian, like it's like G, like A-D is how it's spelled, but it's pronounced God, and it actually means bastard. The equivalent, the translation for it is bastard, which means like a person without a father. And like that is like every time we say that, so like I'm looking at that it's translated as God in the books, and I'm just like, man, I'm like, but then like I wonder if in the new translations of it, maybe we should look at that and really look at what we're doing with that. And then thinking that like, okay, so then I was doing some research on Abba, and like in the Bible, it's actually referred to as, there's only like, I think 3 times when I think it's Paul and Jesus referred to Abba, or referred to God as Abba Father, and it's always Abba Father. But they do that when it's in the most intimate moments. And so like when they're really like in the most intimate moments, and then also when they're having like an intimate, in the most intimate moments, and because they have an intimate relationship with the Father. So it's this relationship that they have with him, which is why they call him Abba Father. And so like, but we should all have that kind of relationship with the Father, this intimate, like just this beautiful, I don't know, is there another word besides intimate? I feel like I'm saying that a lot.
Affectionate. So when you look it up on the New World Encyclopedia, in the Semitic languages, the word Abba, also rendered Ab or Abba, means father, or more affectionately, Papa or Daddy. According to the Christian Gospels, Jesus used the word Abba when praying to God, and what reflected a level of intimacy unheard of in the Old Testament era.
Yeah, that intimacy, there's another word. Yeah. Or maybe that's anyway, I'm a little excited today.
Yeah, me too.
Appropriate that it's the first 2 letters, isn't it? Abba. And then
Yeah.
I mean, this might be diverging a little bit, but we've been getting more in the habit when we're doing our imagery and our prayers of saying Father, Mother, God, because really everything is in everything. And this idea, and by saying one is masculine, one is feminine, one is, it's continuing to perpetuate this dualistic language, continuing to promote this sense of separation, this and that, versus more the singularity, the wholesome, interconnected vocabulary of what some might say the 5D vocabulary of inclusion and wholeness.
This is huge, guys. This is like really mirroring what's happening right now in my philosophy course. We're talking about Nietzsche, and how basically he goes over the whole premise that like our vocabulary is designed to acknowledge opposites and to be of one opposite. It doesn't go with the union of opposites. Like he says those, and I'm like in class, like, whoa, this guy's saying the union of opposites, like that's the solution. And I think that's something I want to divulge what I'm doing here as a little experiment. So all the ideas that we're sharing right now, I'm writing down, and I'm going to make a mind map and a really cool, and then post it on our community platform, because I think that this idea is really potent to like be like, okay, dualistic language, like that's out, like, definitions of God, and like, okay, that's, it's going to be really helpful to have all of that. So just to give a little context of what, feel free, light the world up, Elizabeth. Geez, your smile is just like radiating today. I'm like, that's so cool. Yeah. Sweet. Oh, welcome, Megan. Hi, nice to see you.
I'm working and listening in because I didn't want to
well,
miss it.
I
I love this topic, and I just wanted to say I'm following up to that thread. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say I listened to this podcast. It's like a magic podcast, but there was this really interesting author that came on and was speaking about words, and that like literally, I mean, we all know this, it's written words, it's the duality of words, but it's also like in speaking it, oh gosh, I won't say it correctly, but in your speaking, if you say something like the soap is dirty, or the soap, the soap has run out, instead of I have plenty of soap left for the day, it changes the magic and the energy behind it. You're gonna have to wait 1 second. You can go see Daddy. Never mind. That was my she's coming for a hug. That was my little 2 cents. So I'll walk off. I'm just agreeing with the magic of words. Do you agree? We were making
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Wow. Children are just gracing our presence. It's a blessing and a gift. Uh, um, so what just came to me after what Megan just said, that's seriously, I think, super important, is culture starts with words, yeah? Culture starts with a whole different sets like of definitions. Like that's what we're really working towards, like this, you know, and she's giving us these key words, I feel like, and we're finding these contextual clues of like, hey, look at here, you know. I think that that's a big one. The images behind the words, right? Like each letter has an image, each word has an image. So when we use these different images, we totally, I mean, gosh, like when I look at the English language, I'm sometimes almost like, my sister likes to tell me, she's like, do you ever just zone out and listen to the English language? She's like, it's so weird. It really sounds weird. Like the tones and like it's not like a good language. Like you just could like, you know, it's not ASMR language, right? It's like, you're like, oh no, what are these people saying? Um, Besides that rabbit hole, I think language is fundamental for the Vedrus culture. I think that that's like where we start. Does anyone else have anything to share, add on to that?
We have a friend who's German, and he moved here, and his second language is English. And he spoke to us extensively about his experience. He was like, the English language, he's like, it's so limited. He's like, you know, especially coming from someone who was introduced to it later on as an adult, he got to see it from a very different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did a podcast series with him over a year, and listening to him speak, I was like, whoa, you're right. Like, it's so limiting.
And you know
like,
what? That's the interesting thing about the English language is that
yeah.
so many ways to say so many things.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
right.
he was saying in German, there's a word for like a very specific situation, like going outside and feeling like the incredible elation and upliftment from the ethers of the trees. I'm just making this up, you know, something like that. There's a very beautiful word for that. You know what I mean? Like there's way more of a depth and a complexity to it, like a good complexity, whereas ours is so in a sense, we're trapping ourselves, right, with this not only limited language, but also these hypnotic, like we were discussing, you know, a moment ago, these like hexing hypnotic words, you know. Yeah.
I might add a little something, if you don't mind. My mother tongue is French. And so I was brought up with Québécois, which has its particular intonations and its particular culture attached to Catholicism in particular. And I could not associate with the Catholic segment of the culture for as long as I can remember. But as I learned English, within the same few years, I got introduced to, initially it was New Age and very, very different way of looking at spirituality. And my whole spiritual evolution has been in English. And now when I do cross paths with people that I want to speak spiritually or exchange spiritual ideas, I can't find French words that actually say what I want to say, just because of the whole association or the whole concepts, how I built them up around my own evolution in that particular field of how I define myself now, and how it's not French. When I try to use the same words in French, they only mean Catholic, which is like not going in the same direction at all. So there's also a lot of emotion and upbringing that is attached to a particular language, because that your mother tongue is more or less who you are, you know, initially. So.
Interesting.
You raise up a really good point, because truly all our collective mother tongue is energetic, you know, is like we can look and we feel, And then it's part of our language, whatever language that is a way to construct a vocabulary for the sentiments, for the feelings. So, but we all speak emotion. Thank you for sharing
Yeah,
that.
it was beautiful.
My first language is French as well,
Yeah.
and what you said definitely hits home.
Wow, that's super beautiful. Sorry, did somebody say something?
Oh, I thought I would just add something. Um, I thought it was interesting when I was learning Kundalini yoga, and they were saying studying sound, and that you know how different cultures you associate different characteristics with, you know, like maybe Italians and Spanish more emotional and, you know, English, but they're saying it all has to do with language, that when you're speaking at the tongue, all the different the specific meridians that are stimulated at the roof of your mouth actually create those characteristics. It's all about language. Anyway, I just found that so fascinating.
Oh, wow, you were hitting the nail on the head there. Like listening to Russian bard music, I have no idea what those guys are saying, nor do I even want to translate what they're saying, because the way I feel when when they sing is just like, oh my gosh, like I've never listened to English music and felt that way, like truthfully and honestly. And it's like this guy's voice, like there's moments in the song where I literally get full body. I'm like, oh, whoa, like what did you just say? I don't even but it's almost like that doesn't matter because the intonation is so strong that it's like and I noticed they speak more in the throat. You know, they speak more like from this place of like down in here. English is very like, you know, on the tip of the tongue, you know, very much like we're using this kind of like you know, that type of movement and sound. Wow, thank you, Maureen. What an epic share. Meridian stimulation.
Do you mind sharing those songs with us, Wyatt?
Of course.
I want to have that full body Russian buzz like you were talking about. Like, I want to
It's
know what that
huge.
feels like.
It's huge. It's huge. It's huge. There's one particular song. It's called the Patriarchs in English. Hold on, we'll send it over. I think this guy's name is Oli in English. I believe that's the translation of his name at least. He's by far like one of the most popular bards. Hold on, sorry, I'm looking for. I had it in a conversation with Gabriel. This exact link. Here we go. Cool. Yeah, and I think this segues us nicely. I love how this just works so nicely. You know, music is like oh my gosh, it's like I'm searching for English words. It's the true merriment of these like etheric feelings and then the practical of like the voice, but then it really is huge. I feel like language, music, and then it's like those goes into those creative expressions. You know, as Gabriel likes to say, every movement has its music. And I think there's some of us doing that. Sarah's not here today. Sarah's doing that. There's a lot of music being made and music that has been made, and I think it's huge that we have these songs that are, yeah, giving that full body rush, as Ariane would say. You know, really. Yeah, I do think that's a huge part of this is the music, the art. It's a renaissance, you know, renaissance literally meaning rebirth. It's the human soul, you know, coming out again. And what better way than through creative expression?
Jump in.
I wanted to add that like this book that I'm listening to, which talks a lot about, it's very like affirmation heavy, I guess you could say. But she uses the words, speak the word essentially to heal, you know, anything that you want to heal. And you can heal it, you can heal things, or you can just give yourself a good day, or you could give yourself a bad day by speaking the word, like in a kind of like a dark way, or you can speak the word in a light way, and that brings along like light things. But anyway, she uses the words interchangeably, speak the word and then treatment. And so basically it's like when you're saying your affirmation, you're treating yourself. And so like we can see words as treatment for our ills, in the same way that when we speak words that are like sinful, you know, which is essentially, a sin is essentially anything that leads us away from the truth, then like you can use the word for like for either, you know. But I just thought it was really interesting to like to use that word interchangeably.
Yeah, no, definitely. The fact of it like being a treatment, you know, and it that when you were speaking, the words of the Bible came back, you know, like in the beginning was the word, you know, like it starts with the word. Yeah, that's important. So we have I have a huge box here on language. This is huge. I mean, it's the way we communicate it. It's the way we pass down oral traditions. It's the way we pass down experiences and stories and history. And, you know, hey, the peas did not grow good when this much rain came, you know, so you want to, you know, it's the way we pass all of those things down. So it's huge because how we articulate our inner feelings and the practical is like going to be so key to this, you know, like we are the warriors, right? Like we're Vedrus warriors, all of us are, and we're pioneering this movement. And there's even a story about this in the book. You know, she says that there might be future generations who they have a desire to go off the domain, but then they find like that old kins domain declaration letter of their parents, and they're like re-brought back to this space of like, oh yes, this is what I want, this is the truth. So I just think it's huge that we can kind of really be solidifying the perpetual continuance of this through our words. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many other aspects. I mean, what I want to let the audience have some space. Like, does anybody have any other pertinent things that, like, when you think of Vedrus culture, you're like, this, like, why are you not talking about this yet?
Wyatt,
Carrie.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
I heard you say huge many times, and I don't want to distract from continuing down the Vedrus inquiry, but it just got me thinking. Since you said the word huge many times, I would look into that frequency. And so I looked at where it has some overlap with other words numerically, and that the top result is good, then home. So
Wow.
Yeah.
You just did like is there an engine or a platform you're using, or are you just like doing a quick Google search?
Yeah. It's called gematrinator.com. It gives you the numeric values of words very quickly. And so yeah. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting because and I believe it's the Sefer Yetzirah that begins, in the beginning, basically God merged the letter with the number with the word. So there's this immense perspective on the nature of reality as being, everything being number. Pythagoras said all is number. And so just I say, he keeps saying huge. And that's another element of what language is or has become is there's been these intentions about how to use frequencies by intoning, by picking a word, spelling it a certain way, and so forth. So just was curious that I'd share that with you. So
yeah, no, thank you for that. And to kind of add on to that, I believe the symbology of the letter itself is important. Would you agree, Carrie? I mean, I just want to highlight what Moritz said in the chat, that the written language and the alphabet is super important as well. That, I mean, think about how every, there's no pattern in nature that isn't like reciprocated into infinity. Like literally, as you keep zooming in, it just like keeps, going in. You look at flowers, or you look at, animals, even our own cells continues to go that way. So certainly the shape of those are very important. Yeah, there's a number of things that are coming up for me for the Vedrus culture. Again, I want to leave the door open for anybody who has anything burning in their heart that they want to share. for this, because this is a huge, this is a this is a culture, is a movement of people. This is like all of us together. So
I feel like the Vedruss right now, under the circumstances that we're in collectively, I know the Vedruss would be creating right now a mile a minute. You know what I'm saying? They'd be doing the music, they would be painting, they would be dancing, they would be like cranking up their creative expression, right? In order to not only assist with all this treachery that's going on, but to also shape a new world. That's just the feeling I have, that they would like really be doing this right now, if they were here. And they'd probably just be like rewriting all of the they'd probably just be rewriting everything anyway with their incredible imagery powers. But anyway, all that aside, yesterday Stefan and I were watching a YouTube influencer. She has over 1 million viewers, and at the end of her video she said, I'm sorry it took me so long to create my video, because I'm very hurt by what's going on in Ukraine. And she said, it's very hard for me to be creative when I'm in fear. It's very hard to be creative when I'm in fear. And I found that really interesting. I was like, whoa, Stefan, like we're seeing this real time, how fear can literally paralyzes people's ability to be an inspired creative channel. And then at the end, she's like, but I kind of feel like it's important that we share beautiful images and we uplift each other. And so I had compassion for her. I was like, yeah, she's struggling and that's totally okay. And it's all good. And I understand. And then I turned to Stefan. I was like, imagine if she or someone like her, like with her reach, was like, this is a really hard time. There's this very hard thing going on in Ukraine. I'm having a hard time being creative, but I'm so motivated to get creative right now. I'm going to motivate myself, like really use this as an opportunity to propel myself into motion, because I know my creativity is truly creating worlds. It's impacting people. We're connecting humans through the heart, through creative expression. And I invite all of you to join me. Let's like be creative together. Let's do this, It would have, like I'm just saying this and I'm pumped. And at the end of her call, at the end of her video, we were really low. I had to like put on a beat music after. I was like, wait a minute, that's like, I'm not going to end my day like this, So I wanted to share that because I thought of all of us. And then I thought of the Ringing Cedars community. We can use treacherous times to like be uber creative, like super inspired, and we have each other to build that. I mean, we spend 2 minutes in a room with each other and we're pumped, Yeah.
you just segued something that's super huge, like that I mean, it seems like the culture can be synonymous with, like, in this sense, in our context, creativity. And I think creativity is really, I mean, at least for me, the word brings up a number of other words. It brings up communication with the divine, reflection of infinity, embodiment of happiness. There's like those three things just like like come up in my brain as being hugely fundamental to creativity. And I feel like this is a really nice translation. I think it would be cool, like popcorn style, like one word emotions that we feel are synonymous with this culture. Because I think, like, to really get that word, like, as we're all talking about language, like, now this is huge. Like, now we can, like, okay, this culture is this culture is this culture is this. And I think in that we need to remember, like, I mean, speaking to MJ, like, it has been a crazy week. Ariane and I had this amazing chat earlier this week about education, and I want to call in what we were talking about. The fact that there's literally thousands of people around us that are like just dropping carrot seeds of information, like, oh, let's sprinkle a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here, and then they get excited when it's like, oh, look, they're on a train of thought now. Oh. So I think it's important to remember that we have that support. And yeah, if you guys are all down, I think that would be really interesting to kind of bring in these emotions, bring in that image, and then, like, how does that image make you feel of the culture? Whew. So I mean, for me, it's like I'm immediately bliss. I'll start the ball. Immediately bliss.
Wyatt, were you saying too, create a list and then post it somewhere, or
Yeah, so I'm gonna create a I don't want to distract and share my screen, but I'm gonna create like that thing I sent in the chat to you. Thanks to Arion the Miro. I love that tool, Arion. Oh my gosh. I think it would be really cool to see something visual about this. And maybe even, we could post this up in the everyday things, or different groups like that are like, kind of culture focused or whatever. And it really gives us context. And it's also a way to remember this, because a lot of the times we're tuning in and then we're kind of like, okay, back into the techno world, and then we're like, oh wait, what was that culture point that we were talking about?
Wow, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, okay, so tying that in like with Vedruss again, like, whatever. They spoke in verse. I mean, that was a huge thing. And I've really wanted to learn how to speak in verse.
You mentioned this on another call, didn't you? Yes, you did.
Yeah.
You were like, hey, can we practice speaking in verse to each other? Yeah, I remember you sent that. You sent that in a chat somewhere. Yeah. Hey, I'm down.
It would be like a really fun way of being witty, charismatic, and then also utilizing the language, like bringing up the language, and then just like play the games. I mean, like the children, or not the children, but I guess like the teenagers did, like when Radomir and Lubomila, when they first met and they were doing like the hand things. I can't remember what game it was, but they were like running underneath everybody's hands, and like they had to grab each other's hands, and they had to outwit each other essentially with verse. And then Lubomila just was like on it, kept outwitting Radomir. And just like being able to speak like that, I think is how it's definitely an art. Like it's poetry, it's an art. It's like, I don't know. I have so many things. I have so many like feelings about it, but I can't word them. maybe we'll just see where.
That's awesome. Totally. Like a word I wrote down was like spoken verse, obviously, but play. Like play is a huge part of this culture. Like this is fun. Like, you know what I mean? It's like we're so accustomed to this, like the drudgery of the week and the days of the days,
Oh my gosh, and I love to play. Yes, divine play. I think another word for divine play is Lila, or like Lila.
Wait, can you spell that? Do you know?
Yeah. Well, okay, so it's in English, it's L-I-A, Lila. L-I-L-I-A. Oh my gosh, I can't even think.
L-I-L-I, yeah.
Can I spell it out?
Yeah, no.
It's actually pronounced Lila.
Lila. Oh, okay.
It's pronounced Lila, and it's a Sanskrit, it's a Vedic word, and it means divine joy, divine play, divine bliss, all of those things kind of.
I love how that word sounds. Doesn't that word sound good? Lila.
So pretty. I know. I love it.
Lila. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, this mind map is gonna be spectacular. You guys have no idea. You guys we're so full of ideas. Oh. Geez, all kinds of things coming up for me.
Sovereignty. We need to throw in sovereignty.
Yeah.
Sovereignty is a hard yes. Hard yes. Not just yes. It's
Yeah.
I think also kindness. Kindness is a.
Whoa.
Anastasia is always so kind to people, and she's just, even if she gets bit, she's like, she doesn't get mad. I don't know how she does it. I don't know. She has no triggers.
That is so, thank you so much for sharing that. That is so true for what I'm going through right now. So I couldn't help but notice that, Anastasia says like, so as you pray to God, God comes to you with a prayer every day. And I've just been like trying to, feel into that. Like it's a new practice. I have no, like, I'm not ashamed. Like that's not something I've been accustomed to doing, is like being like, no, what have you asked of me? Like, no, we've been raised to be like, I need this and my life sucks in this way. And like, can you show me another sign and bring me this? And, I mean, that's the child upbringing. There's a lot of things that have happened between then. Nonetheless, though, what's so interesting that you brought up this word, Joanny, is that I have literally, for the past 2 days, there's no wait time. It's like kindness. That's all I want from you. That's all I want from you is kindness to yourself first and to everybody around you. And to just beam it out, just like be kind. It's so simple. Like let go of the pride and of self-importance that can ever constrict that and just be kind. It's so freeing to just, yeah, I mean, thank you so much for bringing that up. That's really hitting home for me today.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we all struggle with.
Yeah.
If we have any family or anybody living with us, unless we're living by ourselves where we have nobody to trigger us. But that's when we have to tap into that word or to that essence of ourselves.
Yes, I love what Maurice said in the chat. Health and beauty. After all, those are really reflections of something, deeper. Yeah, no, I have kindness down. Oh, geez. Okay, this is nice now. Oh, wow, Marine, thank you. I'm just gonna take a quick little screenshot of that there.
I would add a little something going in the, and I'm one who has struggled when I was younger to try to find words, even in my mother tongue, to say what I'm felt. It's always been one of those things. But my personal creativity expresses itself mostly towards the earth and the plants and nature. And I particularly like the word earthlings to describe people that want to be close to the earth.
Yeah, it's like reminiscent of saplings, right? And like seedlings and like little, it's like it really is this tenderness to the word. The ings at the end kind of adds this like, oh, the little things, the earthlings.
And there's action in it.
Yeah.
It's not a passive word. It's not just being. It's acting towards, with.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What an epic word jam, guys. This is huge. I'm already feeling like the solidification of this moment and what we're really doing, what this is going to do for all of us on an individual level, as we continue to kind of continue into this. We're really charting waters that people are like, yeah, we're turning back. Sorry. we're not going down this canal with you. This is everybody else is going out into this place, so this is huge. I appreciate you guys all playing along. Impeccable. Oh my gosh. They just keep coming in. Pristine. Mark, how could we forget that word? Oh.
That's what I was just thinking.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And I always associate the Vedrus civilization with the Golden Age.
Okay.
Because there was a Golden Age, there were 4 yugas, the Sat Yuga, and when everything was pristine and everything was harmonious and everything was perfect. So it's almost like a parallel as opposed to a description. But for me, it's like a description as well. That the Vedic age, was the Golden Age.
Yes.
And people had, far more of everything positive, far more capabilities, far more cities and powers, far more interconnectedness, far more perfection, all the rest of it.
Wow. Yeah. So accurate, Mark. Thank you so much. I definitely think it is like that. It was like that. It was the Golden Age. We're returning to the Golden Age. Huge, 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 huge. I want to transition this. Let's keep playing, guys. Let's keep playing. Okay, so what what actions, what verbs do we do to embody these emotions? We dance, we sing, we garden, we love, we play. Yes, we play. We skip, we laugh. Oh, gosh, this is just, I'm not going to be able to sleep. Listen, this is not.
It's another sleepless night for Wyatt. Yeah. My
Yeah.
call's tomorrow. You need to be there tomorrow, so you have to get some sleep.
I will. Oh, I totally will. Even if I'm in the bags, I'll be like, Ariana, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm showing up.
Yeah.
Hugs. Okay. Laughing.
I feel like we need to let go.
Oh.
I don't know if that's a verb, but it feels like that's
Yeah.
what we need to let go.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's flow. Maybe the verb is flow.
Okay. Adapt. Yes. Yes. That is so key. Elizabeth, that is like, woo, wow, you just plucked a star from the heavens. Seriously, that is like, we all are in different locations. You know, we all are having different experiences. You know, we gather here in community, we read the same books, but we all have to adapt it to our own life, to our own conscious, you know, to our own set of resources laid in front of us. Oh, I have this much land already. I can do this. You know, we have to adapt. That's huge. Unity, we unite. Yes. Aha, we remember. Yes. Trust. That has been huge for me, Maureen. Like that feeling of being overwhelmed and then falling into the bosom of trust. It's how it feels to me. Like I literally am just cradled in like everything's gonna be fine. You know, you just completely let go of whatever it is you're trying to control, because you remember that control never really got you anything that you wanted. It was that surrender, that letting go, as Joanna was saying, letting go, letting with the flow and trusting. Yeah, this is huge. Creating. Moritz, that is huge. Yeah, creators. That is principally what we are. Yeah, I mean, we are these people who are like, this is the land that I see. This is the space that I want to create around me, and we make it. I want a child. We make it. Yes, creating and co-creating for sure. I like perfecting as well, like, because I think of perfecting the dwelling land. Really making things more beautiful is how I define that word for me.
I think we also listen.
Yes.
We listen to the guidance.
Yeah, listen and observe. Yes.
Yeah.
And it seems like what this is really, guys, is we are the bridge. Is I think Kristen was saying this word the other day to me. The bridge. Like these verbs are the bridge to the states of emotions that we've already listed, that are the entry gate into this full embodiment of this culture. Like we're creating a blueprint right now, and I know for some, hopefully it doesn't. This feels very grounded for me, writing this out on paper. It feels very much like, yes, okay, these are the things that we want. You know, we're picking and choosing our experience right now, and we have the power to do that. Tend and shepherd. Oh, Elizabeth, you're speaking Carrie's language now. You know, Carrie's a shepherd. That's really cool. He actually is.
Well, Stefan just said some cool ones. Here to say it.
Catalyze and magnetize.
Catalyze and magnetize.
Yes, epic.
The shepherd's an awesome one. That's awesome.
Yeah. Steward is in the same boat as that word. They're both synonymous. These are beautiful. Okay, we're still playing, guys. You're still rolling with the flow here. We're letting go, we're trusting. What physical places do these take place in? They take place in gardens, of course, in domains, in rivers, maybe, in creeks. Oh, Johnny's adding one. You're right. Awaken must be on this list. Yes, mountains, fields, ocean shores. And then who are we with? I mean, I'm just like playing the part of, you know, this is like just exactly what we do in Arion's Call. Like we're just creating an image here. Like that's all we're doing, except we're doing it in a methodical approach. That's not like with eyes closed and we're still using our feelings. It's just a different approach. So I really invite everybody to really like feel into this. Like these words aren't cheap. These words aren't meaningless. Ah, with our elders, yes. In forest, in children, with children. Oh, all sentient beings. Spirits of the future to come.
That's what happened to us. Wyatt and I are writing a blueprint for the Ringing Cedars education program. And Wyatt's like, let's close our eyes and bring in some imagery. And I was like, okay, we close our eyes and like, there's literally hundreds of thousands of these young spirits, like bam, around us, instantly. Oh my God. Definitely, they're with us, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
Wyatt, I typed it up a little bit ago, but I don't know if you saw it. It kind of like came in in a bunch of other ones, but I said demonstrate. Like
no,
demonstrate.
I didn't see that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so like demonstrate the superiority of man as Vladia does when he's holding, I think it's the plutonium and he has in his hand.
Yeah, and he's like, I want to prove that man is capable, or you know, the strongest energy.
Yeah, and then I think Anastasia is the one that actually says like, how are you doing demonstrating your superiority? I think that's the word that she uses. So that one was a good one. And then you just also said prove, which I thought of, but then like I know that it can have some like negative connotations to it. The word prove does, but actually, if you look at it, like what are we all here to do? We're here to prove God.
Yeah.
And like that's it, you know. So maybe we can. I don't know what people think about that word, but
No, I like it. I mean, you know, book 4, first page, bottom of the page, all proofs, all truths of the universe are forever preserved within every human soul. Like that word is a good word to use, I think. You know, like it really represents like what we're talking here, because let's just acknowledge the gigantic, massive mammoth in the room. Like people doubt the existence of God, and they doubt the existence of like the potential for a happy earth. They don't believe it. And we're here to prove that opposite. And we have the tools. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess going on that road, then too, we have perfect, like
yes.
to perfect dwelling land, you know,
yeah.
and that like I've used that word in the past with people, and it has like to perfect something has like, it can make people, yeah, anyway, that one's a tricky word too, but I would love to like bring that back and like see the divinity, there's another word, really into that word, because it is about perfecting the perfection, like you're constantly refining the perfection.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's like, what is it, the boys in book 10 who say that? They say, you know, like, yeah, okay, he's like, I won't even utter the words, the rules, or not the rules, but the one divine law, not law, I'm missing the words here. You guys know the part, and then like at the end or whatever, he's like, you know, perfect the dwelling land was like this, that's the kind of the universal. Yeah. Okay. Jeez, this is gonna be an epic mind map. This is beautiful, guys. I appreciate you playing along there. I know that, you know, some people work, some people are going long days, and you know, look to these calls as just kind of like, you know, just feel into it. And so I just appreciate the playing along, because I think it's huge. You know, we're creating this collective image, and it's really powerful. I mean, it really uplifts me. I mean, when I think about education, when I think about music, when I think about you know, people I'm going to be living on my domain with, when I think about planning, you know, I get so inspired, and it's a different type of inspiration than just like you know, that short fuse kind of burst of inspiration. It's like this all permeating, like just like movement towards the goal that like anything in the way just kind of like gets disintegrated. I mean, really, you know, it doesn't really last. Yeah. Yeah, George, there's some people that are in Mexico on the Telegram chat, I believe. I'm not acquainted with them. I don't have the pleasure to be acquainted with them. But I know we do have some folks down there.
Yeah, I think one of the guys' name is Ruben something. I think he's in Mexico.
Okay. Are you on the Telegram yet, George?
I joined today. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
And I posted in the chat of the Telegram group if there's somebody from Mexico. So probably sometime soon they will say their names or something. I'm looking forward to connect. I know so many places in Mexico where this could be possible, and so few people that have read the whole series. And yeah, it's wonderful to know that this foundation exists, and there's so many people doing that on this side of the continent.
Yeah, it really is like growing super fast here, and that's thanks a lot to Gabriel. I mean, this man he has been pedal to the metal for so long with this. I mean, he has just been like not stopping, even at the expense of his own health at times, you know, like continually just grinding, working to establish this, you know. He's really been the pioneer of all this and really held the image of this foundation. George, we do have you posted in the Telegram, we also have a community platform. I don't know if you joined that yet. Okay, let me send the link to that because that's a really good place to also just be linked in on. It's really easy to create a quick profile on there. There's maps of where people are at. You can kind of see like soulmates. You can kind of see people's interests. There's many different groups you can join on there. It's really a beautiful place to just. It's like don't have any other social media and just have this kind of. That's what it kind of feels like.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm reading a message also. Like, so if you can show me the ropes, like, are you and Gabriel working together, or is this a call from the foundation or separate from the foundation? And also, Joanna, I don't know, you sound familiar because I opened a group like 6 years ago on Facebook when I was on Facebook, and I was in touch with somebody, I think Joanna, I don't know if that's you, from Peru living in Florida. Is that you? Maybe it is, maybe it's not.
Maybe. I don't remember you, but maybe it is me.
You live in Florida?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Ah, so it's you. Yeah, we were in contact
cool.
back then.
Nice.
I remember. In this group, there were so many people just asking for connection and for just
we've been looking for, especially in Latin America, we've been looking for people to like minds, you know, like we're having these conversations with Wyatt today about the Vedrus because we want to discuss the books together and get more out of the books because things just flow as we talk about things. That's why we have these calls that are amazing. So that's really great that you're joined.
Yeah, thank you. I have the link now, Anastasia USA Land Community. That's the forum?
That's the community platform. So yeah, you create a profile on there and you'll be able to join groups and you know, your location kind of goes on a map. So it's really cool to be able to see like the people. So I think this would be kind of cool just to see right now. Yeah, so this is like what the map looks like. So yeah, oops. So yeah, we are, you know, we're
nobody in Mexico. I know, yeah, there.
We have
3.
Okay, so Puerto Vallarta, and then I don't know, where are you located at?
Right now I'm in Mexico City. 9 million plus 5 floatant million every day.
Okay, well this dear
And
woman,
nobody in Mexico City.
no, she's
Wow.
close though, sort of.
And Morelia, okay, Livia Antoniette. She sounds like she moved here from maybe.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, no,
I will join that.
it is cool to be able to see like guys like really take this in. Like, I mean, I just think this is cool to like just check out like just the North America. Like, wow, we have people in Alaska, Hawaii, all over. I mean, this is really cool. Like, and this is like a fraction, like probably I mean, a tiny sliver of the people that are actually in our community. Like, not everybody has actually registered on this platform. And I mean, to me, these numbers could just say one everywhere, and I would still be like, wow, okay, there's people, and they're all across in different parts of the globe. Yeah, very cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, just one question. Are you aware of what's the status of Leonid? Like, where is he at? Like the guy that translated the books from Russian to English?
Oh, Leonid Sharashkin? Yeah, so actually he lives in my home state of Missouri. And I've actually taken his natural beekeeping courses and have, shook the man's hand and actually emailed back and forth with him. I'm personally friends with his daughter. And I email with her a couple of times. I mean, sometimes it's multiple times a month, sometimes it's a couple times. We just kind of check in and see how everybody's doing. The status of Leo, and please don't take this to the bank, but I think that from what Gabriel told me, Leo had kind of an interaction. Leo had kind of an interaction with the publishers that didn't end so well for him, and it didn't end so well on the other people's side. So the McGrees and Leo, there was just something that happened there. And so he is not really like, he used to be an advocate for the books, and he's like kind of more like hush hush. Like at one of his seminars, I mean, it was almost sad, guys. Like at this natural beekeeping seminar, he gave a whole he devoted a whole 45 minutes of the first part of his presentation to talking about this lifestyle in Russia. But he never used the word Kin's domain. He never said ringing cedars. He's never said Anastasia. He just said, we decided to go back and live on the land. And he showed pictures of the houses. I mean, these beautiful, ornate wooden houses and people smiling and laughing. And he's like, we decided to go back to the land and live. And it was very great to be happy. He's Russian, so he's talking like that. And, it was just like, my heart was just like, okay, are you going to say it yet? Are you going to say it yet? And he never said it. And I just was like, I kind of was almost like, what's going on? Like, what happened? Why, but, off that rabbit trail. Yeah. So that's kind of the status of Leo. It's not that he doesn't, I don't think, believe in the books, and not that he doesn't want to see them flourish, but he's not an active pursuer of making the knowledge more widespread.
So he's not living in like a community, King's domain kind of thing.
No. In fact, he's no. Leo is just preserving large amounts of land for wildlife purposes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that, because I lost the track. I know that his website is still on and he's still selling the books. He stopped selling all the DVDs that were wonderful.
I know. I was able to get one of the copies. A new Earth, or a new. Which one is it, George? It's a new Visions of
Civilization.
A New Earth. The one of the eco villages.
Yeah. Visions of a New
Yeah,
Earth.
I used to have them too.
Yeah, it's a great.
Will Tuttle is the narrator. Did you know? Will Tuttle, the World Peace Diet.
Oh
no,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's the one playing the score for the whole thing, and he's the narrator.
Wow.
I just posted something in Will Tuttle's group on Telegram of vegans for, what is it? Health and freedom, And I said this morning, like, I have this DVD, and this guy was talking about all these eco villages, and it was sold at the Ringing Cedars website, but they don't sell it anymore. They do sell the series, maybe this is related to what you're saying. I mean, this is kind of like the behind the scenes living in the human dream of competition, you know?
Yeah.
But I was mentioning that like something happened many years ago, and Megre and Leonid took different paths. But like I joined today just to say hi and see what you guys were doing and see if somebody was in Mexico, and also to hear about the Rusvedic, because this topic also came up in that group that I just mentioned of Will Tuttle and his conference, about who are the Rusvedic, because there's another group called the Alpha Vedic, and I said, well, that's not really related to the books except the Vedic part, and I haven't found any historical reference
No.
about the Rusvedic.
It's been wiped out. It's been wiped out.
It's been wiped out. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, think about the the burning of the Alexandria Library. There's been all of these historical events where mass extinctions of manuscripts and texts have been dismantled. Not to mention that those texts had mutated languages in them that had been, and still they were trying to preserve a last little bit. But even that, we have a language mutation, and then we also have the deliberate, burning and whatever, getting rid of all of these texts. Megan, do you have something to say? Yeah. Somebody has their hand up.
Oh, I had to unmute myself. Hi. I have
sorry.
a question on this topic.
Yeah.
I don't want to go off because what you're saying right now is so interesting. And it's nice to meet you. Is it George? Is that your name? Right. Anyway, it's really nice to meet you.
Jorge, but it's
Jorge,
fine.
sorry.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Hi.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry. Hi. Anyway, I thought about it earlier on the call, and I didn't know if anybody had thoughts on the connection between the Vedruss and the Vedic, the Vedic people that are out of India. And, obviously, and Sanskrit and the Vedas.
I can talk. I've studied that very, very deeply.
Right.
The original Vedic people were from the steppes of Russia.
Right.
And they migrated downward through Europe, through Persia, and finally into India, into the subcontinent of India. So, what they kept was all the things we know about the Indian Vedic culture. They kept, the knowledge of the vast eternal source. They kept the knowledge of the unity of all things. They kept all those spiritual things. But what they lost was how they lived, because having left the steppes of Russia and having lived that way, when they left and they migrated downward and southward, they kind of lost that whole thing of living in kin's domains. So the Anastasia, of course, talks about Sanskrit and Vedic. And Vladimir talks about the connection between the Russian language and the Sanskrit language, and how many of the words are very similar. But originally, all of the whole Indo-Aryan so-called language groups and all of the Vedic people originally lived in the steppes of Russia.
Yeah, Mark. That's exactly what I was just going to say. And it's really interesting too, because there's a language correlation between, for example, there's certain words in Sanskrit that, let me back up a couple of steps. I'm moving too fast. The Indo-Aryan language was the precursor to Sanskrit, was the precursor to German, and many of these other European languages and other Southern languages, Southeastern Asian languages. And there is direct correlations, like almost to the syllable, in the languages with certain words. The Indo-Aryans were also the first of the time that they say, when they teach you this in history and world religions, and it's mentioned in the books, actually, Zoroaster's fire is the quote that's in the books, but Zoroaster was the, Zarathustra, And there's, you know, Zoroastrianism. And it's like this religion basically that pioneered kind of this like monotheistic religion. It wasn't about idolatry or anything like that. Of course, they mention nothing of Russia. They mention nothing of Vedrus culture. They mention nothing of, you know, the Vedic age. But just in our quote unquote classical history, that's what they teach. It's thank you for bringing that up, Mark. You highlighted a lot of like super good points.
Yeah, thank you. So in summary, we think that it's the same people. I mean, obviously, we're all the same people coming from the same place, but they were close in, you know, in their culture, because so much, you know, I lived in India for some time in an ashram, and so much of it is matches on what is in the books, but it's not it's like the soul was missing. So they lost pieces along the way. Someone made a really good point, which was, someone posted about homas. So homas, for me, in the ashram, you're performing a fire ritual and dipping lotus flowers in honey, and, you know, chanting the names of the Sanskrit names of stars. But you missing it because the homa is actually performed on your land. It's part of creating more fertile soil and burning things and charring it and regenerating the soil, which was like mind blowing to me. So I guess it's just, you guys are saying what I was thinking. And I appreciate, especially Mark, you saying that insight, is that it's close, but they lost things as they traveled south. Even, here's another point, sorry, not to keep going on, but talking about the language, my daughter's middle name is Deva. So that's like a god or a goddess in Hindu. And then I'm reading the books, and like in the little notes, you know how he tells you, he'll tell you what the Russian word or the Vedrus word means. And at the bottom, they talk about the Deva, and it says Deva, and it said something about like spirit of nature, which is like a god or goddess. Like we all are god or a goddess. So Deva, just saying god or goddess, does not have the power or connection as saying you are a spirit of nature. And I'm probably not saying it the same, but it's just this extra level of meaning and significance, I suppose. Thank you for diving into this topic with me.
This is huge. This is huge, Megan. We're rewriting the culture, the narrative of our culture. It's super interesting the point that you just brought in about the devas. You know, the word meaning that we've taken the modern root in, you know, Christianity and that whole sect. We've turned it into devil, and it actually originally means the opposite. And it again goes back to, if you really look at the structure in the chronological like dates of like what happened when certain religions began to take prominence, namely Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. They flipped the script of language, and they also flipped the script of moral things. So no longer, you know, the Greeks for the longest time had this philosophy that, you know, to be healthy and beautiful was the good. And, you know, to be rich was good, and to be strong was good. The other religions completely flipped that. And, you know, Judaism, even though we can see there's a lot of rich, you know, Jewish people, and so that doesn't restrict them, but their religion in the very beginning had the premise that to be a slave was good. You know, it was a slave mentality, a slave culture. And what culture are we really all birthed from? Like, we're both birthed from the Judo-Christian Islamic culture that, well, not so much the Islamic and the Judo, it's really the Christian culture that is just like, you know, came out and birthed us. So we have been raised in this sort of diametrically opposing terminology, you know, of like, oh yeah, this means this. And we're like, okay, sure, this means this. No, it doesn't. It's very interesting. I thank you for bringing this up. This is huge.
And even democracy, you know, the word democracy, she says it was created by this dude who wanted to enslave all of the people, and they would like it, and they would be excited because they were freed, but they were still slaved. So he created money. And then we are like freedom, democracy, and we're still believing that this is good.
Yes. I wanted to share
It's really
too.
awful.
I wanted to share. Yes, no, that's huge. For anybody interested, this is a timeline of language. Now, keep in mind, I'm sure this has got some crazy editing done to it in history that has not been accounted for and written. But this is, we can see our father, ancestors. I don't know what they exactly call this. Euro-Asiatic, Nostratic language. And it does all these offshoots. So then we see, Sanskrit, we see all of these offshoots. So it is really interesting to see this common ancestral line between all of our languages. Again, the way that we express ourselves is huge. Yeah, and I will drop the link in the chat for anybody who's wanting to see this more.
So maybe Mark can confirm or add to something I was thinking about what he said. I've been following someone on YouTube talking about, he's looking into the Oralinda book and the attached culture there. Mark, give me a nod if you're familiar with that.
Could you repeat what you're referring to?
The Oralinda book.
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, so in the late 19th century, this text was discovered in Europe that told of a culture that was really closely related to the Dutch, called the Fryan culture, which was not, as far as we can tell, didn't value recording things in written word. And because their emphasis was on conveying things through spoken word and extending spirit that way. And one of the things that this observer noticed is how similar their texts are, to the Vedic texts and the Avestas. And for me, learning of the Vedruss, then it made a lot of sense for this Fryan culture in Europe to have been the descendants of the Vedruss. And I think that several of you have caught on to elements of the books that it just didn't stick in my memory. I've heard some of you speak about intonation and feeling and verse, for one. That's something that I didn't catch on to. Elizabeth brought up. And so that's something that would be huge potentially if you look at this Fryan culture as one that wrote very little, and this, what we have to go on is the record of just one family kind of keeping a book of kin, and that book surviving. It tells stories at least as far back as Alexander the Great, and farther actually than that. So but that makes a lot of sense for such a culture to have been the descendant of perhaps the Vedruss, who might have kept almost no writings whatsoever. So I just thought I would add that. It's an interesting line of inquiry to me.
I can add this to it, that the Sanskrit and the Vedic cultures were to a very large degree, they were purely oral traditions. And the most sacred texts were often only oral and were not written down. So I'm not familiar with the Fryan or the Fryan, but it sounds like they could very well have been an offshoot of that kept that going, and that was the main part of their culture, like it was part of the Vedic and the Sanskrit. And I wanted to say, the precision and the understanding of language that the Vedic and the Sanskrit scholars had was completely and totally mind-blowing. And the Devanagari script is based on the absolute science of the vocal apparatus. And, the letters go in the order of the vocal apparatus, like from the labial to the palatal, to the back from that, and then back to the glottis. All of the Devanagari letters follow the physiology of how we speak. Our lips, our tongue, our palate, our glottis, all the rest of it. And then they also follow a whole sequence of how we can pronounce things. For example, there are the labials plus the H sound, like the BH sound of Bhagavan. There's the B without the H, and then the B with the H, and the M without the H, and the M with the H. And, the whole thing is set up perfectly in how we are capable of pronouncing, and much, much more than we pronounce in the English language by far. And that Devanagari script, it also migrated from the Vedic people over to Japan, and to some degree, not as completely as in Vedic language. The Japanese language also follows that physiological sequence to some degree as well.
That's huge. Mark, can you recommend any books on studying the physiological composition of the language of Sanskrit?
Yeah, if you Google Devanagari, which is the word for the writing of Sanskrit, you'll probably find some things. But I learned all this studying Sanskrit at Berkeley and all these different courses and so many different books. There's no particular book that comes to mind that I can recommend to you.
Okay, thank you. And then Carrie, I had something I wanted to add to what you were saying. It kind of, there's this woman in our group, her name's Nadia, and Nadia lives in Minnesota, and she speaks Russian, and she grew up in Russia, and she has read the books in Russian. That's how she read the books. And she says that the English is just like, almost pitiful. Like, that's her words. I'm not saying it is, but she claims that they don't even really do it justice. In her words, the Russian original text is so poetic, so much in verse, so much in simple language, like common words, that it's like anybody could pick up the book and read it and like want to keep reading because of how it just like flowed. And we see that a little bit in the English translations. And there's a what is it, author's foreword in a couple of the books that talks about like they've tried to really mimic this poetic rhyming scheme. But think about how hard that must be, like going from Russian to then finding a word in English and then rhyming that. Like, you can't always match that. There's no way. You can't. And then even if you did, you're not doing it justice, really. You can try. Supposedly Leo, the editor, said that until he felt the same feelings that he felt when he read the Russian, that's when he knew that the text was ready. When he said he would get a cold shiver up and down his spine, and he knew then that the text was, it doing its job, or it's, it was conveying the combinations accurately in another language. Yeah.
Well, I don't think that we would be here if it were, poor.
We'd be like using Google Translate for like the books and be like, this sucks. What is this? No.
Okay, but
Yeah, I
let's
think
let's.
go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead. Who's talking?
Oh, it's me.
Okay.
I don't know where I read it, but I remember like one of the very first translations of it. I think maybe actually this is in the foreword where I think maybe is it Leonard or Leo or
Leonid, Leonid.
Leonid, okay. Where he talks about that the very first translations of it were so awful, like you couldn't even read it. Like, of course it didn't. Of course nobody was reading it in English. I don't know. Is that familiar? Is that what you were talking about, Wyatt?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Ellen, thanks for that epic share there. I got this book on my list now. Wow. Stalking the Wild Pendulum on the Mechanics of Consciousness. Interesting. I'm going to take a look into that. Yeah, and I think they can show too that, children who learn languages young, children who are multilingual, and I'm sure as Stefan and MJ Locus can attest to, like, I'm sure your brains literally work in a little bit of a different way because you have this. I took Spanish for like 10 years, and if I was in a country, I could pick it back up and go. But I don't really like have that, like in my brain. And to think about having multiple languages to be able to express yourself in, I think is a huge part of culture. Huge.
Just a comment there. I just shared a link of the Ringing Cedars website.
Oh, good. Yes.
And they make a really good structure of who is the author, who is the editor, who is the translator. So actually, Leonid is not a translator, is the editor. Like, he hired a guy that was like amazing translating Russian to English, and he financed the translations with his credit card. That's how he published those series. And I've heard so many people. This is the translation that I read, the one that Leonid financed, right? And I compared it only to reading the 10th book. Has anybody read the 10th book?
Yeah.
Okay, the 10th book, yeah. The 10th book is only available on Maigret's edition, which is not the translation but by Leonid's. Leonid's were the first books that he went all around US, Canada mainly, and made them famous, right? So that translation, I think, is what Wyatt is talking about. And I also felt the presence of Anastasia on that edition. But when I read the 10th book, which is not translated by Leonid, and what's the translator's name? It's
John
right there.
Wordsworth.
Exactly. Thank you. So they did a great job. But when I read the 10th book, I didn't feel Anastasia's presence one bit. And the wordings, they were changed. It was a disappointment for me because it was really hard to get that book. And I could see that the feeling, the intention, the work to translate the symbolism and the rhythm and the everything that Leonid worked so hard to transmit, it was gone. So I don't know if people on this call have read Leonid's edition or Maigret's edition. I think it's a big difference. That's why I bring it up.
I think pretty much everybody here has read the edition, the black covers people are familiar with, or the green covers, the original. Yeah, like see what Satdaya is holding up. Like, I think that's what pretty much everybody has read, which is the Shirashkin edition, or edited version. They didn't ever print Magri's edition in English here, like print it, you know what I mean, and ran a print like they did with those books. So I know the people who have only read the online books, they've only read the Magri version. And then the people who, have the books, we've read the others. But I think it is important. It really informs us, the way that we pass down our information, and the way that we read about history. The language that it is written is very key to its proper understanding, to the proper realization of its essence. So I think we're rounding out the point here again. The central theme of this call really seems to have been language for a lot of people here. It seems like it's really coming back home to language. And, so I guess my question to myself, and to echo the question to everybody, is, so then what do we do? What do we do to really embody this new language that we're speaking of, right? Because I think that's what we're talking about here on a subtle level here, was we're all talking about we need to start a language that is known by us, by all who engage in this lifestyle, and isn't obscure, is very descriptive and colorful and full of life and full of vitality, as Ellen would say. Ellen, please share what you have to share.
I love that, because earlier when I was everyone was talking about language, and I was thinking about the Tower of Babel and how it was intended to separate us, and that idea of this fall from our unity and our fall from the oneness, which is that myth, that we actually are separated from that which is eternal, which can't be separated. So this idea of the true language is our frequency. It's the love that we carry, the love that we embody, and that can transcend all languages. And I don't know if you've ever been in a foreign country or with someone who you don't share a common language with, and yet you have a connection. And it's like you can hand gesture, you could actually have a deep connection with someone just based on the feelings that are evoked in their presence and that's shared. So I think that we can do our best in language, in actual words, to speak consciously from the heart and very mindfully and aware of that context. And as Elizabeth said earlier, when she was looking at how to shift the mind through these techniques, to just be really conscious of what are some of the words that we're using, the self-talk, that type of thing, a mindset, I think you said. That it really is like I've been playing around with language for decades, and people would say, let's brainstorm, and I'd say, let's heart vision. And it's like I would change it around from like what I felt was a masculine kind of way of mechanistic view of the universe to one that's organic and more embodied, both a masculine and feminine united in a flow, completeness. So it's really a juicy topic for me to listen to everyone share tonight on the importance of language and culture, and also how we can do that ourselves and create new, but also know that the true language is our love, and that love for nature and that love for one another. And I think that will be what takes us forward into the future, into the dreams that we've been dreaming with Ariane on her calls, like just being ourselves, and also have compassion for when we're not fully living up to our perfection, those words, perfection, but also knowing that we are here to add our frequency, our love, our beauty, our kindness, all the words that you guys were writing earlier. And we're just getting started. So yeah, just thought I'd share that.
That is the most perfect. Oh, that's like the cherry on top of the evening for me. That's huge, Ellen, because it's so easy to get, as we talk, we get more and more using this mechanistic language. We get more and more complex and away from really the true essence. Love is the essence of the universe, and so of course that our language should really come through that. And this is echoing a quote that I remember Ariane highlighting, that when a writer or a poet, writes, and they write from their soul and from their heart, the combinations of words will appear in the order that they need to accurately translate that, on the paper. I just think that's amazing. Sorry, there's squirrels above me. They're saying, oh yeah, we agree. We agree. Good going, guys.
And then yeah, like, sorry, I wanted to just add, like, the next level is really telepathy, and that, like, a nonverbal communication, which I think is definitely within our grasp.
Yeah, she says that to Vladimir. She says, you know, Vladimir's like, I'm interested in the topic of, I think it was was it flying saucers in book one, or it was one of those chapters. And she's like, if I were to tell you everything, you would have to spend not 3 days with me, but 3 weeks. I have a much more efficient way of communicating. It requires direct thought transfer. You know, in this way, I could tell you everything that I need to tell you, all of it, in a couple of minutes. And it's like, whoa, okay, that's a good reminder. Yeah.
Yeah, how the language, the words that we're using are tidbits, and we're slowly but surely moving into the imagery. You know, there's a graduation. You know, like I was writing earlier, Aboriginal. I know just a tiny little bit of Aboriginal intent of the words, and how it a single word, a single version of snow is actually 4 little words stuck together, because that's what the image of it is. So, yeah.
Oh, I like what you just said, MJ, and gosh, Ellen, what you said, like you definitely just spoke what I was trying to say. I'm so glad that you spoke it, because it kind of prefaces like what I want to say, which is like, with the when we're speaking, is to be really precise with what we're thinking about. And so really getting that image. And that's like where I think I'm seeing how perfect and how divine it is that Ariane's guided imagery calls are coming in, like in the order that they are, because it's helping us learn to envision together. And like, and part of what I'm doing is I'm practicing, and I'm working on doing voice readings of the books, so I can record them. And I'm trying, like, what I'm trying to do is put myself in the place, like when Vladimir is speaking, or when he's narrating, like, what would I be doing? Where would I be in my head? Would I be at an office desk? What would I be thinking? Well, how warm is it in the room? What's the feeling like? What am I, like, really trying to put myself in that place, so that when I read it, my voice actually like changes, and I'm kind of like morphing and transmuting into Vladimir as he's reading it, because I want that to come across when I'm reading the script, you know. And then the same thing happens when it's Anastasia speaking, or when it's Vladimir speaking, or when it's like whoever it is that's speaking. I'm just really trying to, like, I don't know, use my ray, I suppose, to really envision. And this is different than visualizing, but like to really envision like who that is, what that's happening, so that, because it's the heart then, that it's this image that is going to come across to the person listening to it, or the person that's reading it. And it's like, what makes one, like, I was schooled in photography, and I'm like, what is the difference between like one photo of a sunset and another photo of a sunset? Like, they're both sunsets, and you can really see what you're looking at, what you're feeling in the image. And what makes a difference is like what the photographer was feeling when they took that photo. Or, you know, same thing with like painting, and that kind of like, so anyway, it makes me even jump to the part where Anastasia says, like, the artists of the future will not use paints and paintbrushes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are they going to use? You know, I'm just like, so anyway, I in order for me to be what I just said, like, Ellen Mary, what you said, that was so helpful. So, and then MJ too, and everybody. So just, yeah, hope that was clear.
Hey, can I say something regarding all of this? Because I think what we're talking about, we're talking about language, and we're also talking about personifying these people that have been, you know, that have been gone for so long, and we're trying to bring them back through ourselves, through our actions, through our words. I think when they talk about you know, rationality and anti-rationality, and they see a girl, they talk about this girl who's working at a cash register, and she's so sad, and she's so depressed, I guess, like just checking people out. And one of the little boys say, she already lives in the rational world, and look at her, she's jumping around with her son, she's running around the fields and she's so happy. So even though we are in this matrix where we live, we are also living in that place where we want to go. So these visualizations that Ariane is doing are taking us there, and we're getting closer and closer to being there, because that's how it works. And all of these language and all of these things are just going to help us get there faster. I feel like. Does that make sense? I hope it does.
Totally. And Joanna, just to like totally echo what you're just saying, during the last imagery call, I had this image, or maybe it wasn't the last one. It was the one with the curtain. And I had this image of after everybody was over on the other side of the curtain, and it's really stuck with me that, and it really was like a call to action. And everybody was in these groups, right? Like, and everybody was like facing each other, but the groups, imagine these circles, but these circles butted up against each other, and people were swapping into these different circles, like always just kind of flowing through that. And what it really meant for my brain and my heart was that we need to be gathering small as well. And what I found is by finding a couple of, people that are in my area and a couple of small people, we really start to catalyze this small, small knit circle that then begins to do these miraculous things. And it provides a kind of a deeper level, a deeper affirmation of that image, right? I know like a couple of my pals are on here, Kristen and Carrie, and then Sarah's not here tonight, and then Cody, and we've all begun to really hold space together. And I'm just telling you, it's magical, like when it's small. Yeah, it's a fractal, right, exactly. And it's totally what she says in book 1. She's like drawing circles in the earth. And Vladimir's like, oh, okay. And she's like, this is, one circle. And then these, they keep going up, and these are the leaders of the group, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like my brain was doing all of this while Ariane's imagery was going. And it makes so much sense that, we connect here as this large group. And like, guys, in 5 years, this is going to be like hundreds of people on here. Like, it's going to be like huge. It's not going to be like, oh, 25 people, woohoo. Like, no, it's going to be huge people attending these imagery sessions and attending these calls. And maybe these calls are in person, maybe like it's, who knows, but to find that local group, to find your circle of people, I think is huge. And they're out there, they're calling for you, they're waiting for you, just like you're waiting for them if you haven't already found them. So that was something that just really like spoke to me as we were talking about all of this.
Yeah, community is really important.
Yeah.
I drove like an hour and a half to meet another Ringing Cedars reader, and she lives up in Jupiter. And I was like, I have to meet them. Like, I have to connect with them in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's magical. I want to share, like, Kristen and I just met for the first time. And it was just like, it was funny because we noted like immediately there's familial, like, oh, like it's, yeah, like I know you, you know me, like we've known each other for a long time. And there's still sometimes with new people that you're gonna meet that are of different mindsets, you're like, different speeches and all these things. But all of that aside, there is an all pervading sense of comfortability with these people. Like, just like there's this sense of comfortability that we're all kind of creating here with each other now, like this real safe space. Like, it doesn't stop and end at this call. That's what's cool. Like, it's literally just like echoing off of this call into space, like, and then we each go and carry that into even our personal relationships that aren't involved with the Ringing Cedars community. People are like, wow, you're just like really easy to be around, or gosh, I feel like going outside now. You know what I mean? Like, we really are doing that for people. So it's huge. It's huge. Community.
Can I just make a comment of how I think it's so neat how you've been talking about words and then feelings. And I think the more you go deeper and deeper, you realize you need less words. It's just a presence, and you can just be with someone. And I think with Anastasia, so often, like with the grandparents and stuff, they didn't really need to talk much, right? It was almost all telepathy and a deep sense of feeling, Anyway, I just thought how it was neat how it moved into that.
Totally. Yeah, we answered our own question. We always do that on these calls. It's normal magic now. It's nothing spectacular.
I asked this before, but I'm always been intrigued by the alphabet of trees that Anastasia mentions, and that you can read the forest and that language. And I don't really understand it. So I was wondering if anybody else has like that experience of literally reading the forest or having that alphabet from her kin's domain in the taiga.
I think I don't have the experience, but the one thing I want to highlight is she says my ancestors have preserved these combinations for thousands of years. And when I think about on an ecological perspective, are there any virgin forests left? The taiga is probably the last one compared to maybe the depths of the Amazon and maybe some remote parts of Canada. I mean, I can't really think of other places that haven't been just completely rearranged. I don't know, maybe somebody can point out a physical geographical location to that. And I'm sure we just tune in, right? We just tune in and then we plant these, combinations in the right order. Totally. Like I'm not saying it's not possible. Like I'm not saying, oh, we need to go to these places and observe and take note, but as far as like seeing them in person, I don't think I've had the occasion yet.
I had a recent experience with this, if it's okay to share.
Please.
So my husband is, we got accepted to this agricultural program here in Hawaii, and the culture here is so in tune and similar in a lot of ways to the Vedrus culture, as in, the way they did it was right. And so, and the stories are passed in words and all these different things. So a huge part of this agricultural program, it's Hawaiian agriculture. And you are learning the culture, you're learning la'au lapa'au, which is the medicine, and you're learning the spirit. And literally every god and goddess in the Hawaiian culture is connected to a plant or a weather or star or a geographical, mountain, ocean. And so as we're learning, the day I spent with them it's funny how things all get connected. We were learning about a plant called ava, which makes the tea kava. So when you said Abba earlier about father, I thought you were talking about ava, the plant that makes this tea called kava that they use to connect to each other. And we're learning about it. And the teachers there are so incredible. And all of the knowledge was passed on verbally through generations. And now we have these people here teaching us. And so the ava plant, they're in their culture, the way you drink it, you have to be connected to it. And you're not supposed to sell it because it's grown for you and your family or your community to drink together. And the what's cultivated in the plant is created and you drink it. And I'm sorry, I'm not really good at getting to the point in stories. There's so much behind it. The point I'm getting to is depending on where you live and how you grow the plant, it changes. It's a chameleon plant. It changes in color. It changes in the actual physical makeup of the plant, depending on what you need. And so they have different names for the different plants. And they say, oh, this plant hulis, which means it changes, it turns. And so you watch it, and in the same plant that was pulled off my land and put in your land, and depending on how you speak and connect to the land and what you need, the plant changes. You're reading the plant is reading you. I don't know if it's completely applicable, but it just, I had this conversation. It opened up getting to talk to them. And I was saying, what they're talking about is so much like these books that I'm reading, because it's the language of the earth and nature. You as a culture, the Hawaiian culture, and what they're teaching us is how to read literally the land and nature. It's mind-blowing. And I can't even articulate it in words, because the feeling and the power and just the clarity of mind in this process and learning about it is beyond spoken word. You have to experience it. But when she talks about, I'm going to tell you she reads I can't remember, what is it called? The language of the forest, or the language of, I can't remember what she said specifically.
It's the book of co-creation. It's the book of co-creation. That's all that it is.
But she's looking around, reading the trees and the ground, and there is knowledge there. It doesn't have to be in the form of a letter or a number. It's like telepathy, but with nature. And that all of the knowledge of the earth is stored there if you can access it and accept it, I guess. I hope that was on topic.
I personally am imagining it goes a notch further. That's just me playing here. I have my little pinky, my little intuition aspect. When Anastasia was reading The Forest, I have this I don't know, it's not the intuition, I'm missing an English word here. I suspect that we have this, how we use only like this small percentage of our brain, right? And that not only it's holographic and we perceive and we work only a small percentage of this whole holographic world that we live in. My wondering that's the word I want to use. My wondering is, can we read all of creation's DNA? Does man, as we are in our pristine way, can read the whole of plants, mineral life, animal life, and go and get unknown to us right now information about life and creation?
Yes. Totally. That's amazing. Yes.
I agree. We can.
Yeah, she says, all information is contained within man. If only he takes one moment to forget all of his worldly cares, then all of the information will come flooding back. And I want to I'm gonna pronounce. How do I pronounce your name right? Tell me so I remember. George.
Jorge.
You're muted. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Jorge.
Okay. Jorge. Okay. Okay.
Imagine a horse eating hay, and you just pronounce this first syllable.
Easy.
Jorge.
Thank you for
that.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
you had your hand raised, my friend.
Yeah, I was, because I'm trying to remember this passage of reading the forest. I don't know if that's the part that they talk about the language of God, like they were trying to say something about the prayers, and then they say the prayer of God to man.
Yeah.
And yeah, is that part that she's saying like?
No, okay, so it is similar. It is similar. What these folks are talking about is in book 6. That is in book 4, right after God's prayer to man. And you're talking, I think, about the part where they say, Vladimir says, what words can we utter now, or blah blah blah. She's like, words. There's thousands of different words in different languages. The divine language is in the rustling of the leaves. It is in the soft intonation of something, and in color and texture, and that's what she said. Is that this part?
That's the language. Yeah. But that's not related to the reading the forest?
So what the reading of the forest is there's a story. So, there's the son Volodya, and Vladimir goes and sees his son for the first time. And, Volodya's like, what do you mean you can't read this book? Vladimir's like, you can read this book or whatever. And he stands up and he like points out, and he like, starts reading like, words from the book of the creation, my son, and Vladimir says he's pronouncing it really slow and really fast. Volodya also says that Mama, Anastasia, can read the book very fast, and he's learning how to read the combinations fast. He says he'll get faster. But he's like, my son, the universe itself is a thought. And then Vladimir's like, whoa, wait, you can see holographic letters in space? And he's like, Papa, no, don't you see the willow tree over there? Don't you see the birch tree? Like, can't you see it? And Vladimir's like, well, yeah. I mean, that's what they're talking about. That the inscription of the book of co-creation is a natural one that is accessible in pure, pristine nature.
Isn't it related? Like both things?
Totally, yeah. If
Okay.
there's totally a relation, yeah.
The divinity, like without microscopes and genomic atomic sequences and stupid things that require electricity.
I don't know. Yeah, no.
I'd like to support something that Megan said right at the end. She said, the telepathy with nature. And then you all added these beautiful additions. What it reminded me of was, as I'm sure many of you recall, Masaru Emoto's work with the water crystals. Because, again, nature doesn't read words. Because, he wrote, as some of you know, in one jar, water from the same source, love. In the other one, water from the same source, hate. Puts it under the microscope after X amount of time and notices that one labeled love, symmetrical and beautiful, one labeled hate, distorted. But then this is where the experiment gets interesting, because he was like, was it the words that did that, or was it the intention behind the words? So took the experiment one step further, wrote hate on the one, putting loving energy towards it, and wrote love on the other, putting hateful and resentful energy towards it. And so, not to any of our surprise, even though this one jar was labeled love, these water crystals were now distorted, and that one labeled hate. The water crystals were symmetrical. So it's reminding us that's not what we say, it's how we say it. Or again, transcending words, and it's the energy behind any words that we speak. Acknowledging that some word combinations in itself, when spoken, create a certain vibration and resonance, we still factor in the energy behind it. And now that reminds me of what we read about the bards, when she asked Vladimir to say bards, and then when she educated him a little bit more about it, he wouldn't even dare say the word, because now he had a better understanding of the energy behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
That's a good point.
Thank you, Stefan, so much for saying that. I don't even remember what you said, like how you said it. It's already like, it's already like, it's still there, but like what you said, like the feeling that came up, like that's why I had a good day. Like that's what I was doing. Anyway, that's all I got. I'm gonna have to listen to this recording. I remember why I said that. But I had to share that.
Did you guys know of the other experiment that was done with his work with rice? And they had 3 categories. One that was love, one was negative, and then the last one was ignored. Which one do you think was the one that did hold it fastest? The one that was hate or the one that was ignored? It was actually the one that was ignored. So it's interesting, because I've always thought that what Anastasia says in her transmissions is really that our human energy, being a man, being Vedrus, being embodied, is really a currency. It's a flow. It's a vitality. It's a grace. And so when we direct it, we can impart more love and more beauty and more kindness. And when it's not used properly, it can cause decline and decay and so on. So so much of that is that purposeful, intention. And her query to us, like our role is to find out what the other gifts of all these other species or beings on the planet is, because they all have a value for man. And I've always thought that was interesting, but I think it's like our love is the key that unlocks the gifts and the ability to read the alphabet of the forest, just like her son was able to do, just innately, because he wasn't conditioned with microscopes and everything else. like Jorge said, like the mechanized mind, the indoctrinated mind of our societies. I've had to like undo that learning in order to actually listen deeper to the wisdom within, and that's everywhere. So it's such an invitation. But I was actually surprised that I always thought that the power of hate, or negative intentions was stronger than being ignored. But I realize now why some people act out in society in a negative way to get attention, because it's better to have negative attention to them than nothing, and then not be seen or recognized. So that was a real aha to me.
Ellen Mary, I think a really cool example of that, and just and I don't know if I've spoken about this before, but for anybody who has read the book The Never-Ending Story, or even if you've seen the movie, the reason that Fantasia ends up disappearing is because it's forgotten about. And the only thing that they need is for some human child to give it a name and to create it into existence. So yeah, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference, or it being ignored because of the attention that you were saying. But like by not giving it attention, by not creating, there's even a point in the book when the childlike empress, and Bastion are in the dark. There's nothing. It's just like voices. And the childlike empress asks Bastion what he wants to create. And he's like, wow, now that I know that I have anything, that I can create anything, he's like, I have a feeling that I don't want to create anything. And he's like, I just don't know what to do. It's indecision kind of thing. And she's like, that's very bad, Bastion. She's like, without your dreams, without creating something, like Fantasia will cease to exist. And so it's just like what we're saying with like, even just the attention is such an important, attention is so important. It's like the best gift we can give people, the gift of our attention, and like not to take it for granted. That's something that I've really learned here living in community for a while. It's just like the gift of your attention is so beautiful. And of course, if it's like, we want like loving attention, that would be like the preferred, like the divine pathway, I guess. But anyway, that's what was really coming up, just as like this example from fairy tale or from folklore. And it's probably real. Honestly, it's probably a true story.
Yeah. I mean, we see that with plants. It's super evident, like a plant doesn't care. Like it just wants to be in the same room with you. That's it. Like it literally doesn't care about, of course it wants that direct attention, but like, just like let your energy be with it. It loves it, Stefan, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no sweat. That was beautiful, Sharon. It segues into what I want to share about attention being a nutrient. It truly is. And there's different degrees of nutrition and nutrients. Because as Ellen Mary was saying with that experiment, the negative is still a nutrient. It's a low quality nutrient, but it's still a nutrient. And it really makes me realize, this is fractaled in all facets of our life. Look at what our loving attention does to a plant. Look what our loving attention does to a human. Look what our loving attention does to an animal. And that's the beauty about the animals, is you get immediate feedback because they're so connected to that energetic response that it is undeniable, the effect of attention. And then, as you said, Elizabeth, that loving attention is something that is paramount for all things to thrive and survive. So let's continue to give ourselves that nutrient, that gift, because our own cells, remember, we are an organism, every one of us. So why not shift that loving attention that we give to our plants and our animals back to ourselves and our own bodies, and see what happens to your physiology.
Right. Isn't it 38 trillion bacterial cells versus 30 trillion human cells? So we
There's
are
more bacteria.
yeah, literally full of it's the puppies.
Speaking of attention, she
Yeah.
clearly wants some.
Yeah.
Like, hi, I want some love. Oh, you're talking about love. Oh yeah, give me some of that. Yep.
The juju.
Oh my gosh, if you have a dog, go hug it right now. I'm gonna go. We're planned.
Sorry, Jorge, please take the floor. Oh.
Okay. That's great. I think the topic for the call being Rusvedic, I would like to come back to that trunk a little bit, because I want to find a way to understand how that relates to us. Well, I am a mix. I'm a mutt, talking about doggies. Like, I have so many mix in my genes, and some people in the books are very like just Rusvedic, and I don't know if you have seen that they want to dress as their ancestry and they want to build as their ancestry did, and they're trying to come back with the songs that they remember that their ancestry played and all of that. So that has created a lot of mixed messages, because some people really have connected to ancestry and some others have really created a very extremist, nationalist, pure race kind of thinking into these kin domains. I'm talking the ones that I have been in contact with, and they have mentioned the others. And like, there's a mixed opinion about these kin domains because of this, no? Like, for example, if I go back 500 years, I know that I have around 1 million direct blood ancestry. So if I keep going back to the Vedics, I guess there would be like a direct common ancestry between these guys in Russia doing their kin domains and me here in Mexico, kind of. But I'm not sure, because there's no books about it. Like, already White has explained that his research has got him into saying, well, there was a lot of burning of books and old scriptures and all things that we will never have access to those. But at the same time, during this call, we have heard that there's telepathic and connection to well, I would call it akashic records through the DNA, through consciousness body floating in the earth magnetic field. You know, there's ways to connect with that. Some other people use plant medicines, like ancient power plants and stuff like that. So I would like to hear that, like, how this relates to your personal situation, and how to connect to ancestry, and how to regain this knowledge of reading divinity in nature, and being able to do whatever Anastasia said she did, that resembled things like Jesus Christ apparently did, you know, like teletransportation, like being in two places at the same time, like time is not linear. All of these powers that we're supposed to have, and kids were supposed to be like the answer to connect to that, because they were coming without the blockades that we the adults have in our paradigms. But at the same time, we're seeing people injecting most of the kids in countries with these substances, and I don't know what is going to happen. But I mean, like, maybe I was not clear enough, but to find a link between our actual situation of each one of us on this call, and ancestry connecting to the Vedrus culture and powers. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a super good point. I'm sure lots of people on here have very, very interested, deep, real experiences with that. Just shortly, mine. Joanna mentioned in the chat, purity of thought is the way. And I want to use that as a trampoline to catapult into this. So I think it's like there's a ground, right? There's a ground from which all other findings are laid upon. I realized this today. This is really crazy. That fundamentally there is a doubt that has been deep seated within everybody. The doubt of a couple of things: the doubt of God, the doubt of divinity of man, the doubt of Earth as a pristine planet, and the doubt of implications of actions. I noticed that there's kind of like, well, the universe doesn't have this cause and effect. We all know the truths to all those, but coming to those truths, I think we find them through our purity of thought. And in my own experience, it's been through dreams, it's been through aha moments in communications with personal friends, it's been through silent meditations, it's been through dance, it's been through song, it's been through writing, it's been through creating divine businesses. There is no separation between the all-pervading connection that is the interplanetary mind of the universe, Abba himself, right? So like I think we're coming from this place of like being indoctrinated, and this mirrors what Ariane and I were saying with education. We have to go through a process of unindoctrination to begin to viscerally feel these things that are true, right? Because we all like have the concept like, okay, yeah, teleportation, sure, I got it, like, but there's the feeling of that. There's the feeling of like, yeah, I can do this, yeah, I can move this object, yeah, I can create a space of love, so yeah, that's just my short little piece. I feel like it's this inherent thing that when we begin to get rid of self-importance, when we begin to rid ourselves of doubt, we start to tap into the pure essence of life, and then we're embodied as cosmic creators. Then like we can do whatever it is, like whatever our heart's desire is. That's just my little piece.
I'm just taking that in, Wyatt, that like, yeah, that's so integral. Just to really to deny or dispel any doubt that we have, that we are not those things. And that's like one of the things that I'm really, really working with. And like it is, I guess it has kind of come up with in like intimacy and like birthing and whatever. And that like this idea that we have to have children before a certain age. And then like what I'm working with, which is like, that's clearly not going to happen for me, So I'm like, what is my path, and like, what does feel right? And it feels right to like dispel the belief that I can't have children at like 400 years old, that I can even live to 400 years old. Just like blow that out of the water of like, like that I have only 100 years to live, like no, what's his name? Yeah, it was Noah. Yeah. Noah lived to 900 years old. It says that in the Bible. And so just like, but feel it like deep in my heart of like, I look at myself in the mirror, and I've been doing this since I was like 25. I'll be like, wow, I look good for 75, or I'm just like really like making these practicing these things. Yeah, I think I'm losing. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say for the most part.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, you can also switch it to the other way, where you can just be like, I can have all these things like tomorrow. Like it can just show up tomorrow. It can just come in a week, like get ready for your life to begin when you're least expecting it, because that's exactly how it happens. It can be when you're 400, and it can be when in a month, and you'd be like, what? I'm pregnant? Like what? You know what I mean? Like these things can happen to you when you least expect them. Just expect the best,
Yeah, and
Anyway.
like what you were saying, Elizabeth, with like how you felt so good today, like as simple as it sounds, and as like well, no, there's got to be more. Like, I really think it's just following that feeling. Like, it really is that simple of like, what makes you feel good? Like, when asked, what does he desire of all of his children? Like, be happy, I ask you. Like, that's it. Like, it comes so easy. This whole week has been like that. And it's been so interesting because I've had these key moments where it's been like, you can go down that way, or you can choose the happy way. And it's been like, the choices of the happy way have like far outweighed the other way. And I've just seen all of these things just like boom, traveling, friends coming into town, educational plans happening, like things happening with the RC group and the proposal, like all of these just like like, and you're almost kind of like, I sometimes have the thoughts, I'm like, can you go a little slower? Just a tad. It's a lot. I'm taking it all in. It just happens. I feel like we tap into that creative essence, right? And it just flows. It feels so good. It flows. Sorry though, Megan. I didn't want to. I know you have your hand up.
Yes, I thank you. My hand up was from back a little bit, but I love what you just said. And I was feeling that too this week. And I'm like, okay, I guess it's happening now. I was thinking in the future. But it's a really good point because you're open to it. And it's a creation of your thought and intention, which is, we've all, I think, also been the synchronicity and all feeling it at the same time. But it's just like today, it was actually yesterday afternoon, the floodgates have opened, but I allowed it. I made a final decision that allowed it, that sort of thing. Anyway, I was going to say something back a few, but it may not be relevant now. There was some, so I had, some of you know that I had this experience with my children where, the purity of, I think Joannie, who was just saying what was it? The purity of thought. Yeah. So children are that, right? Are these pure little human beings. So these things come through their mouth. And there was some alarming things, 2 years ago that happened with my daughter. And a friend of mine who had experienced the same thing as when she was a child she helped explain it. And I thought it might be helpful for you, Jorge, to think of it this way, is that energy never disappears. And thought is another form of energy. And so, there's all these different religions, spirituality, different forms of energy. That's like the physical form of feelings and love and all these things. They don't go away. They keep resonating. And so what is that? How do you connect to that? We know it's there. They've told stories about it. And I think it's just, is your antenna not crooked and covered in dust anymore, like a child, like my child that experienced this message, like, woof, just after one after another. Okay. And my friend said, well, she's picking up on it. It was there. It was resonating. It was vibrating. You or the other people, we felt what she was saying, but she felt it intensely and just like, you are not listening. You have to repair this relationship with blah, 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 who was somebody who used to live there 100 years ago, like this message coming through. But it helps me. And now in so many ways, I apply that explanation. Well, energy never dies and never disappears. Are you tapping into it? Are you open to receiving it? Or are you in another frequency? Is your frequency in line? It's your source. It's, some of us like this source connection. I love the way that terminology. Are you connected? Do you choose it? Are you open to it? Are you putting the intention? Or are you just thinking that it's possible, but maybe not you? It's something I thought about personally in going through this process with my child. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that note.
That's so, your children are literally like living mystics. Seriously. There's so many things. I lost track of all of the things that you've said. Like, oh yeah, my child came to me and yeah, this is another magical experience. I mean, really. Ariane's nodding her head because Ariane's a part of it. She's like, yeah, I know these children.
Yeah, these children literally dreamt of Stefan, you know, and they were getting messages about us through their dream world. And Megan and I have had, I just call her Magic. I don't call her Megan anymore. Your name is Magic. Magic and I have had a very, what people would say, inexplicable, very paranormal moments together through nature or through like a photo that arrives at the exact moment that we're speaking, these types of things. And as I know a lot of us here have seen what's going on, especially on the community platform, is we're looking to normalize magic, especially I know Elizabeth is big into that as well. So it's like, no, this isn't paranormal. This is totally normal. So we still let ourselves get excited because it's really cool, but we're getting better at being like, yeah, this is actually how it's going to be, and even more, you know, paranormal. It's normal. It's not para.
Yeah.
It's normal. Yeah.
And on that point, I missed so much because I thought my daughter is hilarious. So I thought they were all stories until I stopped and listened with intention and focus. And then she was like telling me in the beginning, I mean, this thing with art and stuff on, just we're mind blown by all that. But like, I thought she was just telling a silly story about the Indian chiefs are crying. They're crying, Mom, we have to help them. The people are sick and they're dying. And like having someone pick up on it with me, that this is odd behavior for her, even for silly little Kaylin. This is just on this regular earthly plane. I couldn't pick up the message until I was ready to listen and hear what she was saying. You know, we're learning how to communicate to each other with feeling and intention and pick up each other's frequency of love. Once we've learned that with each other, or like Stefan said, with yourself, oh man, how intense is that, being accountable and truthful with yourself? Then once we've cleared off that dust, we can connect with source and the other stuff that's out there that you don't see with your eyes, I guess. It's wild.
That's really wild. I just wanted to mention something in the magic category that I think Wyatt would appreciate because he wasn't there. Because it was the goddess gathering with Maria.
I'm waiting for a men's gathering to materialize. It's in the works. It's okay. Don't rub it in, Ellen, but it's okay.
But I wanted to share that it was. I got a text in the chat. You look familiar, and somebody was on the call, and she looked familiar to me, and she said, "Were you on this cruise in Australia? You know, at a certain point, have you ever been on one of those?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Were you on the zip line in Fiji with me?" And she says, "Yes, that is me." And she said 2 hours before the call, she was going through some old photographs, and she and I really hit it off. We were like, you know, two birds of a feather, you might say. And we took a picture together. And this was in 2015, so this is 7 years ago. We haven't really been in communication since. She saw a picture of us two together, and then 2 hours later, I was on the call. So I just thought you would appreciate that synchronicity.
Mind blown.
In the Anastasia group, right? In this, the Cedars group.
It's normal. It's normal, Ellen. It's not a big deal. It's normal. Yeah, I mean, it is still fun to get excited. Hey, life is exciting. It's full of magic, mystery. Yeah.
Yeah, why? I think that's really important. Like, it's definitely normal, but that doesn't mean we take the awe out of it.
No. In fact, that's like, yeah, that's like kids perpetually. They're just like, yeah, it's so good. It's so wholesome, so natural. Sweet guys. We're approaching the 3 hour mark. I think for the sake of time and forever respect out of everybody's time, we'll wrap things up here. I want to totally leave space though for anything that's on anybody's heart. Like I want you to leave here feeling like, whoa, I'm gonna dream crazy dreams tonight. It's normal though, and that's what I'm hoping we leave here feeling. So if anybody
I
has
have a
yeah.
poem I want to share, if that's cool. That's okay.
Yes, please, Joanny, please.
Okay, because it's very much related to everything that we've been talking about. And it came through to me the other night when we had this goddess dance, which I thought was so beautiful to connect with all these women, even though it was virtual. So I wrote this poem and I want everybody to hear it, but as if you're speaking it to yourself, So I am, when I say I am, you think you are, you know what I mean? So I'll just read it real quick. It's titled Ancestors. I am my ancestors walking through my feet. I am the dream of generations. I am where we all meet. It is our time. The shining sun still stands to light the way for generations to come. Brothers, sisters, brothers, come. Let's recreate paradise. Our ancestors are shining to us their bright light. Come, let's step into the divine. Dream a little dream, plant a little seed. Let's hurry, my sisters and brothers, to our kin.
Wow. Can you please share that somewhere if you feel called to? Like I want to post that on a poster and put it in my room. I have like my whole body lit up. Seriously, that's so resonating with me right now at this moment. Please, I know it is with everybody else. Please, if you feel called to, I don't want to, take that, but
Oh yeah, I'll share it. No
oh,
problem.
sweet.
But we are Vedrus. We are the people that we are,
Yeah,
It's in us to recreate it. We just have to remember.
yeah, it's like we're the answers to our own prayers. That's a beautiful poem, Joanna. Thank you so much.
It's so beautiful. Why could we end with each of us just saying a word that would be like a spark word for our tying into our kin's domain, and that we can hold each other's energy fields in that creation as a way of
Let it be. Let it be so. Ellen
Oh,
has
wait,
spoken.
before we end though, I just before we end, like I have something to say.
Yeah.
You guys, yeah.
No, go ahead. Well, I think Ellen was saying like suggesting ending on that, and then we're like, okay, bye, after that. Maybe not, but so maybe if anybody has anything else to say, we put that in.
Okay, yeah, I do.
Okay.
I just wanted to go back to the purity of thought thing, and just like when we're in that space of alignment, of attention, of flow, like that actually is the purity of thought. And just like it's always just like purifying more. So just like recognizing that when I'm in that place, like this is purity of thought, and then just keep refining that and go, and so just recognizing that when we're in purity of thought. And then also there's a discussion on the Everyday Things group about how to purify your thought. So if you want to carry that conversation forward, there's another spot to do that. Check. Now we can end.
Thank you. I want to say thank you all to everybody who came tonight. This is really awesome to hold this space with you all. Time flies, and it really is non-linear. So to be present fully with you all in this moment right now means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to everybody else here, because we're doing a lot by just showing up. So yeah, without further ado, I mean, I gotta think about my word for a minute, Ellen. There's so much that my brain and my heart are trying to yeah. So I don't. Somebody can start, or maybe Ellen, or I don't. You know.
Well, why don't we just take a moment and breathe deep and
Hmm.
just picture that we're on our land and in
That's
our communities, and our feet are bare feet, and we're connecting with whether it's sun or starlight, whatever you invoke, and just know that it's already true, it's already done, and we're connected to this vast web of beauty and wonder and love. The word that comes to mind to me is cherish.
Mine is right self-expression.
Mine is gratitude.
Mine is sensory gymnastics.
My word is intention.
My word is the family bond.
Mine is copacetic.
That's just a fun word. I don't even know what that means.
It's like supreme satisfaction, you know?
So there, okay. That's a great word. Wow. Okay, copacetic and reverence.
I'm gonna read Moritz's word. His word is return home.
What came up with for me is flow in compassion.
We'll leave a couple more moments if anybody wants to add anything else. Okay. Thank you all for your space, your being, your walking temples of light. And we have Arion's call tomorrow, same time. And that's where we kind of transition from the I see our calls as working in tandem, they're dovetail. So it's like we kind of address the things that come up on our mind in this call about domains, and then we go and we're like, okay, time to really seal the deal with the heart, with the imagery. So I hope to see you guys all there. It's always a joy to have that. There's something so incredible about holding the image with multiple people at once. There's a real tangible feeling with that that's different from any personal meditation or anything. It's like it's visceral. It's like whoa, you know. So I hope to see you guys all there. And yeah, if you don't have the link for that, Jorge, do you have the link for that? Are you no? Okay, are you on the Telegram chat? Yeah.
I started being on the Telegram chat today, so I haven't like really caught up
Okay.
with all the messages.
We'll post the link again. Yeah, Ariane. Yeah, we'll post it again in the chat so that you can see it and so that anybody else can see it. And
Much appreciated.
she's also posted it right now in this particular chat as well.
I'd like to give a shout out to Jorge because I saw your email handle, so I just looked it up. And everything on your website is what we have been talking about and literally mapping all morning in all our little various groups. It's incredible. I'm just dabbling into it, but wow, this is amazing. The free food for future. I just looked it up. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, I posted it on the chat On the
It's your
Telegram?
name on your Zoom. It
No,
says Jorge at
Ah.
freefoodforculture.org. And so I just was like,
I was like, whoa, this is very telepathic. Sometimes.
no, it was very
Yeah, you're right.
I
Yeah,
picked up
yeah.
on your
I logged
energy.
in with my account. Okay.
Wow, but it looks amazing. And, you know, thank you for joining the community. And I can't wait to hear more about it. It's amazing.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's co-create.
Yeah, please. There's a lot of us very much interested in that. Let's do it.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, everybody,
right.
for the time. See you tomorrow.
Aloha.
Hello.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Buenas
Buenas
noches.
noches.
Bye.